Okay, I'll call the April 9th, 2024 regular meeting of the Mill Creek City Council to order at 6 p.m. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I will lead us tonight.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adrian, roll call, please.
Mayor Holtzclaw,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Vigneault,
Here.
Councilmember Cavallari,
Here.
Councilmember Steckler,
Here.
Councilmember Allison,
Here.
Councilmember Duque,
Here.
and Councilmember Pack.
Present.
We're back in force tonight. Okay, anyone, audience communication, would anyone like to address the council? Seeing a nod of heads negatively in the audience, we'll get to the senator momentarily. Anyone online? I see no one online. Okay, that moves us into our presentations. First, I have a couple proclamations to read on behalf of the council and the city. First is the proclamation for Earth Day this April. Proclamation of the City of Mill Creek, whereas the global community now faces extraordinary environmental challenges, and whereas all people, regardless of race, gender, income, or geography, have a right to a healthy, sustainable environment, and whereas all of us as caretakers of our planet have an obligation to take action to affect positive environmental change, to preserve the Earth's beauty and natural resources, as well as to combat environmental degradation. And whereas this obligation extends not only to today's caretakers, but also to the future generations of caretakers who will inherit our planet from us. And whereas Mill Creek has abundant natural resources and awe-inspiring beauty and an obligation to safeguard them for future generations. And whereas Earth Day is an annual reminder of the constant need for environmental activism, stewardship commitments, and sustainability efforts. Now therefore, I, Brian Holtzclaw, the mayor of the city of Mill Creek, on behalf of the city council, do hereby proclaim April 22nd, 2024 as Earth Day throughout the city of Mill Creek and encourage residents, businesses, and institutions to use Earth Day to celebrate the earth and promote the well-being of the inhabitants of this community and the protection of our environment. Signed this 9th day of April, 2024. And from the environment to our libraries. Proclamation of the City of Mill Creek, whereas National Library Week is a time to celebrate our nation's libraries, library workers' contributions, and promote library use and support. And whereas the theme for the 2024 is Ready, Set, Library, which illustrates the idea that in our always online world, libraries give us a space to connect with others, learn new skills, and focus on what matters most. And whereas National Library Week was first sponsored in 1958 by the American Library Association and observed in libraries across the country each April, including but not limited to school, public, academic, and special libraries. And whereas there are an estimated 23,627 libraries, wow, of all kinds in the United States, including the local and popular Mill Creek Library. And whereas Mill Creek is part of the Snow Isle Libraries, which was formed in 1962 as an inter-county library district that allowed the community libraries in the area to better serve the region, and now is part of the 23 libraries in operation. And now therefore I, Brian Holtzclaw, the mayor of the city of Mill Creek, on behalf of the city council, do hereby proclaim April 7th through 13th, 2024 as National Library Week throughout the city of Mill Creek and encourage residents, businesses, and institutions to utilize the many resources our local library offers and to celebrate and promote the individual growth the Mill Creek Library fosters every day. Signed this 9th day of April, 2024. Okay, now for our third presentation. Welcome Senator Lovick to give us an update, his update for us on the past legislative session. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Holtzclaw, and good evening, members of the council and staff. Just for the record, my name is John Lovick, and I live here in Mill Creek. And I always like to tell people this is my 34th year living in Mill Creek, and I absolutely love it here. Just a wonderful place to live. I call it home. I have family and friends over all the time, and they absolutely love this community. And I want to thank you guys for the great work that you are doing. I want to start by telling you, I'm going to be very, very brief, but I really want to thank you for those two proclamations, especially the last one. Libraries are just a huge, huge part of my life. I can remember growing up in Louisiana when libraries were very, very difficult to access, and one man sponsored bookmobiles, and I just could not get over just bringing so many books home, and my kids fell in love with libraries also. Just as a overview of the presentation I'm going to make, and it will be brief. You probably know this, I know all of you know this, there are 147 members of the legislature. That's 98 state representatives and 49 state senators. And we all go back to Olympia with a goal, with a mission, a vision, and something that we want to do. So when the session started, I pretty much said that I was going to make my vision, my mission in the legislature. I was going to focus 100% on public safety, even though we had a lot of other things and I sponsored a lot of other bills that did a lot of different things, but I really wanted to focus on public safety because I've always felt that people need to not only be safe in their community, they need to feel safe. If you don't feel safe, you're not going to go out and go to the malls. You're not going to go out and go to town center. You're not going to be in Starbucks and all those places so I made my focus public safety. With that, we did some things with the transportation budget. We put almost $31 million for traffic safety measures to reduce speed, increase state patrol funding, and combat intoxicated drivers. I bet you guys feel the same way I feel. We are all experiencing the absolute fatigue of reckless drivers, the fatigue of aggressive drivers, and the fatigue of drunk drivers. You can't get on the freeway and go anywhere without having someone pass you at 100+ miles per hour. Representative Donahue sponsored a bill, House Bill 2384, will expand the use of traffic cameras to reduce aggressive driving speed, to reduce speed. There's a huge shortage of peace officers in our state. So I made it my goal and my mission and my vision to do something about it. And so in 2023, we funded new criminal justice training facilities. We opened one in Pasco this past May. We've graduated 48 police officers, 54 police officers. That's 54 police officers that are on the streets right now. They started another class a few weeks ago. They will graduate on July 17th. And then we opened a regional campus in Vancouver with 33 members. I'm really interested in that because I think we're going to have to do something to do, and I love the great work that our men and women in law enforcement are doing. We're going to have to do something to change that culture. And I have a sign outside of my office that says, culture eats strategy for breakfast. It doesn't matter what the strategy is. If you have a culture, and 99.9% of the men and women in law enforcement go to work every day and do their job, it's that one who doesn't. It's the Derek Chauvin. It's the person like that makes a huge difference. We're excited about what we're doing with regional academies. We're working very, very hard to open a regional academy in Arlington. We're just going through all the stuff that you have to go through. And what that's going to do is that's going to reduce the wait time for officers here in Mill Creek, for officers in Linwood, because every time we put 54 officers through the academy at a regional campus, that's 55 slots that they'll have down in Berrien. And we're excited about that. I just believe 100% that those new recruits are going to be the next generation of policing to change the culture. And I have a saying that I always use. I say the heart of compassionate and effective policing is a personal connection to the neighbors and neighborhood you're working to keep safe. I truly believe that statement. We passed bills to really, really connect that. One of the things that I started working on a few years ago is I worked on a bill. The bill number is 5424. It's to create flexible work schedules for law enforcement. We're finding that people are leaving the profession for a variety of reasons, but there might be opportunities for someone. I'll take a female, for example, that might have young children at home, and she cannot work a 40-hour week, but she can come out and work during the busiest time when we need law enforcement, which is 6 p.m. Friday until Sunday morning. If the agency will set up the opportunity for her to work a flexible schedule, we can do that. I was on the phone this morning with a lady from New York, and people are looking at what we're doing with this legislation and see how it will be implemented. Really pleased with the support of that. When the governor signed the bill, I was quite excited because you know, he's a very, very aggressive guy, and he normally signs legislation. And after he signed this particular bill 2 weeks ago, he pulled me off to the side in the middle of a signing ceremony. And he looked at me and he says, "Why haven't we done this sooner?" I said, "I don't know, Governor. You know the old saying, nothing can be changed until it's, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be faced until it's, nothing can be changed until it's faced." So we looked at this and we did this. Another thing I'm really, really happy we did, we passed a bill to allow DACA recipients, deferred action of childhood arrivals, to allow them to actively participate in law enforcement. And people are really excited about that. I put a bill out to allow agencies, organizations to adopt an academy class if they want to. If, for example, I won't call their names, but if a person from Microsoft with trillions of dollars would like to simply fund, I'm sorry, did I say Microsoft? I meant to say Amazon. If someone from Amazon would like to fund a full academy class, if they would like to do it, they can go to the Criminal Justice Training Commission and say, "We're going to fund this test. We're going to purchase that equipment. We're going to purchase those cars that those officers will drive." And so we're excited about what we did. Really an exciting year. A 60-day session is really short. I know your city manager was down there, and I think we spent 15 minutes with each other, and it was a long 15 minutes because the next person walks in wants 15, and you know, you just got to get so many people in. And the last thing that I'm going to talk about, and I just want to say something about the flexible work schedules. It's going to give us the opportunity, all law enforcement agencies, to retain senior officers. An officer that I can think of myself. I know I retired after 31 years, but I could have seen myself saying, going to my leader saying, "You know, I'm going to retire from the state patrol, but I'll come out and work weekends for you if you'd like for me to." Just some opportunities we're going to do, and we're looking at it. The country is really looking at this. The last thing I want to say is that I was hoping my friend Chuck Wright would be here. We got $258,000, and thank you to the city manager. We kind of put the push on him to get some documents to us. We got $258,000. They only gave each member $300,000 for capital funds. And we got $258,000 to make some repairs to the Veterans Monument there at Mill Creek. And that's it. I'm going to try and come back when my two colleagues, representatives will be here. But I wanted to come tonight because I have to be out of town a couple of days and I might not make it. But I just want to read one thing that I love reading. It's by 19th century poet Rabindranath Tagore. It says, "I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was service. I acted and behold, service was joy." I want to thank all of you for your service. I tell people this all the time. What makes this community so neat and so unique is the service that you guys provide to all of us. I don't make many phone calls to City Hall, but if I do, they'll return it immediately. And I've heard other people say the same thing. So thank all of you for your great work. Look forward to talking with you again. And please, when we're in Olympia, you're welcome to come down anytime you'd like. And the city manager will tell you, we make sure you get in and talk with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Mayor, could I say something?
Yes, ma'am.
Senator Lovick, I just wanted to address this money that you got for our Veterans Memorial that is unfortunately has, you know, as for years, we've not been able to put up the people that made the ultimate sacrifice, their names, because we ran out of room. And we really had to change the whole thing around. It's a costly endeavor. You went out and got us that money. I know that you were a champion for that. And I sincerely thank you as well as every veteran parent, as well as the citizens of Mill Creek. And I have a little saying, you're very quick to congratulate us on our service, always, every time I see you. But I always have something I'd like to say about, I've learned in politics, there are two types of people that I've found in politics. One is someone who just wants to be a public servant, and the other one is waiting for their next photo opportunity. And you, sir, are a true public servant. You gave us a gift of $250,000 through your efforts and hard work. And yet you didn't show up here with a great big check to be taking pictures with. You're notorious for that. Every time you do make something happen, you're the first to not take credit for it. And I think you deserve to get that credit. Thank you so much for your efforts on this. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Steckler. And I will be down with the big check soon.
I'll take a picture of you then.
Thank you, Senator. Were there other questions? You have a question? Councilmember Duque? I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Hold on.
Is it not working or?
No, you're good.
Oh, it was to Senator Lovick. Thank you for everything you shared. I also, just because I saw it on the news this morning, I wanted to thank you for sponsoring Senate Bill 56 06 on deterring illegal racing. I saw again on the news, I believe it was in, is it Wallingford? I can't remember where it was this weekend, where there was another takeover. And as someone who, you know, from Los Angeles area and sees how constantly roads and intersections are just being taken over there. And while it hasn't hit anything up here that I have heard of so far, I really appreciate you being proactive in being able to do that. And you know, I was following the whole process and hearing the other mayors, Kent, you know, talking about it and supporting it. So just thank you for that, because I think you were absolutely, what you said is right. You went to Olympia this year with public safety in mind, and you absolutely delivered. So thank you for listening to the cities who brought that up. And then also for those of us who didn't, because it's not necessarily an issue here, thank you for being proactive in working on those types of issues.
Thank you very much.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. John, we're not gonna let you sit down. They're like, every time you go to sit down. No, I just wanted to say thank you so much for the work you were doing this session on public safety. And also, I just want to highlight how important these regional training campuses are for us to get more officers trained sooner and get them out here doing the work to make us safe and to make everyone feel safe, and how important that is. And thank you so much for pushing that through. And I know it wasn't a guaranteed thing that this was going to happen, and it took a lot of work and discussion with your colleagues. And so thank you for putting public safety at the forefront this session and making sure that we got some of the things that we really need as a city to make sure that we are taking care of our residents. So thank you for all your hard work to make sure that we got those things taken care of.
Thank you very much. And I just want to say, we will probably have, I'm not sure the date, but we will probably have a ribbon cutting at the facility. We think it's going to be in Arlington. I have a 2011 Chevrolet Equinox, and I put more miles on that thing, running to this place to look at this building, to that building. We think it's going to be a nice facility in Arlington, out east of the airport. And the beauty of these regional facilities is that the men and women get to go home every night. And we think that that's going to do more to attract women to the profession. I'm just a huge fan of really having a diverse law enforcement profession. And when we attract women to the profession, it's going to change that culture that we need to change. So thank you very, very much.
Anyone else?
I'm eating these compliments up, guys. I could stand here forever. It's normally you don't get this stuff. Thank you guys very, very much.
Thank you, Senator. Okay, Martin, do you want to lead off our old business with the ordinance from last week?
All right, thank you, Mayor, Council, Mayor Pro Tem, staff. So kind of rewind from last week, I'm bringing back the agenda item from last week regarding the budget amendment to adding a management analyst position to the salary schedule for reconsideration, along with council's request to provide a little more information on kind of what we as staff are doing, have done in the past, and what we are doing now to address our current and future potential capacity issues with respect to a lot of projects that we're working on. And of course, this is the management analyst position that will cost an additional $67,000, and there will not be any additional budget authority needed on this ask. I also want to just kind of go back a little bit about in the history, just to give you some context of kind of how we got here in terms of all the projects that we have on our plate. If you recall back 2019 all the way through 2020, you know, as the agenda mentions, you know, back in the COVID times, when COVID was determined that it was a virus, and then, you know, everything shut down. We didn't know what the financial outlook would be. We didn't know how long COVID would take, the pandemic, the extent of it. And as a city, as you know, we prudently made a decision to reorganize. During the 2021 years, we actually started hiring a few positions back. The prior administration actually started the process to bring a few positions back. And those positions still are within our staff right now. During that same period, 2021, you know, it was when I came in And then beginning of 2022, we started working on projects. Started making lists of projects, large projects, small projects, CIP, across all departments. Keeping in mind that it's not just the large ones that are important, but it's the ones that functionally keep us moving forward. The ones that span departments, the ones that are really part of keeping operations moving smoothly. And I'm not gonna mention them now, but if you have any questions on which ones they are, I can be very explicit on kind of all the things we need to work on. We continued rebuilding city operations. We continue adding staff slowly, but really what took a backseat, this all took a backseat to a lot of things that we worked on over the prior few years. And that included the successful fire annexation. You confirmed my appointment as city manager, and, we were in the midst of the budget process in 2022 as well, which kind of held back a lot of projects that we could not work on or address. So we just took on priorities and did what we thought, needed to be done. And a lot of the projects that we have been talking about in the past 2 weeks that have not been done, this position will fulfill to some extent. So 2023, we focused on ARPA. We of course inherited a lot of projects also that require some rework that was done from projects that were started from the past. So a lot of other priorities took the front seat also in 2023, along with a lot of challenges in hiring as well. So which is another reason why we didn't get a lot of these projects accomplished. So bottom line is, as you kind of getting the message here, that we have not started some projects, and we have slowly started some projects that we're working on. But I think to really get the city in a position to where we can better prepare for the future, this position is really important to us to approve. In your packet, you'll have a lot of the information that you saw last week. There's one page at the very end of that packet, in that section, that lists a lot of the positions that we added in and outside the budget process. There's some mention of consultants that we hired recently. We are looking for consultants in some other areas as well, as you can see, as we explained in there. I do apologize, though, on the maintenance workers that we're supposed to hire this summer, that's actually a 4-month project, not 6 months. So that's in the packet as 6. And also I left out the Deputy Director of Public Safety as well. So that's a position we added, but that was part of the budget process, I believe in 2022. So however you choose to make a decision on hiring this process, I do respect whatever you decide on any information that's based on what the Deputy City Manager I presented to you in the past few weeks, anything that's in this packet, and any questions that you may have today. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Questions? Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I have questions. I watched the meeting last week when I was on vacation. So I've heard everyone else's concerns and the things that they brought up last week when I wasn't here. For me, one of the things that I'm stuck on right now is that I need to see a plan and more of a vision on how this gets incorporated. Because for me, I listened to what people were saying, and our budget reflects our priorities. And one of the things I did not hear much going on was discussion on how we're going to fund this position going forward. I hear you when you're saying that it's just 67,000 more dollars this year, and that we have that money in the budget. But the reality is we're going to come into next year's budget, and this is going to be a position that we've hired, and we're going to need to pay for this person. And when we went through our budget process last time, we had positions that really like kind of broke my heart that we couldn't fund for public works to help them get their work done, for communications to help them get their work done. And we are still going to have to come up with money to pay for those positions. And I feel like they're in dire need of those positions. So how would adding this position help make them more efficient to get the work done that they need to get done? Because to me, I feel like that's the biggest need right now, is that we need workers to be able to help them get out there and get the work done. And so I'm just needing a little more help to understand this vision and how this position will could actually help get that done. And then how are we gonna pay for this position next year? Because I feel like we're gonna have to come up with the money somewhere. So that's a big question for me for next year. So that's my questions.
Well, one option to fund the position is through our reserves. We have a abundance of funds there, as you all know, to fund it moving forward. You want to do it on a temporary basis, there's ARPA as an option as well, but I don't recommend that. I believe it is a position that's going to be required or needed going forward into the future to support other departments. You're asking how other departments will benefit. This position is not only will be a lead of projects across the city that span departments, but also will be able to support projects, not as a subject matter expert, but as a position that will take a more of an analytical and systems analyst type approach to supporting, for example, GIS system. It won't be the lead, that'll be the city engineer, but it will be a position that can support project moving forward from a project management standpoint. That's just one example. I think there's a lot of ways where even on the strategic side, we have 1961 consulting that we're going to be having deliverables come through at the end of April, beginning of May. There are a lot of things that we need to decide moving forward post 1961 to start moving forward, how we make decisions from that aspect as well. We have a long list of projects, I think, that really are essential that we move on, that will not only reduce, because I think right now what we're doing is a lot of things without these core simple things that we have to handle, whether it's simplifying our contracting process, whether it's finding ways to better efficiently manage all the files in our system, whether it's a database of HOAs that will allow us citywide to use that for either contacting our partners or leveraging that information to connect from a communication standpoint. We're scrambling a lot of times on the administrative side. And by being more organized on that, it'll in the long run, I think, save time in how we in our workflows. It's a way to mitigate risk too. There are projects in the HR department, whereas performance evaluations or ensuring that we're following procedure in terms of those processes by not getting things done on time, and I'm guilty of it as well. That we're potentially opening ourselves up from that aspect as well. And so it's just making sure that these processes and workflows are moving forward. I think still part of the rebuilding. I think it's necessary, and we haven't been able to do that. So yeah, those are some of the ways I think that we can, in the long run, it'll help. It's hard to see to some extent, but I think it's really important. Go ahead.
Sorry. I think it's really important for us to remember that we set some strategic goals at the beginning of the year. And a lot of them were project-based. A lot of them were ARPA and moving ARPA projects forward. We have the DRCC. We have a lot of moving pieces, and these pieces span across the entire city. And we really do need another body to be able to get all of these things in motion. As much as Martin and I try, we really cannot hold the ball for all of the contracts, all of the different pieces to get each department going. And so this will be a very key position in going and saying, hey, Public Works, what do you need for this specific contract? We want the islands to all be redone. We want this done, in 6 months. How can you make this happen? Hey, over here in Marcom, we have this website that we're redoing for the communication platform. How do we start making these things happen? It just in all of the different departments, we have so many projects. It would be so helpful just to have someone to say, hey, I don't have time to research this. Can you go get all of the information that we need to have to make a solid decision and bring it to us so that we can look at it and then we can get a contract in place. Once we have that contract, can you route this through? Can you make sure that we're including everything that we have, that we're meeting our insurance requirements? And so I think it's really important that we remember that this is going to really help us with the goals that you guys set at the beginning of the year.
Councilmember Steckler.
Well, I'll open up some conversation here because I'm going to give my thoughts on this position. Number one, if I was to step back and say, how is our city leadership doing? I've seen so many remarkable things. We're moving in such a great direction. Financially, we're in great shape. There's so many positive things. And I try to say, well, is there an opportunity to improve? And the one challenge that I've seen is that we have a lot of projects that do not get completed. And I've talked to Martin about this and just said, that's a concern I have. I see things that we put in our budget, we budget for them and they just don't get completed. We didn't have the right engineers, we didn't have the right people, we didn't have the right time, whatever. There was challenges. And so if there was an opportunity to improve, I would like to see us improve in that area. And what I see here is a position where that's the purpose of it, is to make sure that we get these certain projects completed that we've had hanging out there that don't just get rolled over to next year and the next year and God forbid the third year. The other thing I also like about this position, which I think is very smart, in public service, you put in for a position for a department, and then we have to decide if we have the budget to afford it, can we make it happen? Well, I really like the fact that this position doesn't work for one department, and that, as I understand, they're going to be reporting to you, Martin, and that we hold your feet to the fire to get these projects completed as a leader. And you're going to use this resource in the best way possible throughout all the departments that you oversee to make sure that those projects get completed, or certain projects get completed. So the fact that it doesn't work for one department, I like, and I actually think it's a smarter way to operate. It's a leaner way to operate, and it's a more effective way. So I think that's very good. Last, I do want to reiterate what you already said, Martin. We have reserves that are in excess of our recommended level. And we've all agreed that those reserves are going to be reduced, and that excess money is going to go back in the general fund. So we're going to have an increase in the general fund that is going to allow us some other opportunities. And I'm sure one of them will be this position next year when we have to fund it. So those are my reasons why I truly feel very strongly that I want to support this position. And I hopefully the council will agree with me and that we will get this approved today. My final thought is the most effective leadership that we can provide you, Martin, is what do you need to be successful? Try to give you what you need to be successful, as long as it doesn't hurt the city. And then we can hold your feet to the fire to get the job done. So when you come to us with this position in a way that financially can be affordable, I have all kinds of ideas of what I think is important and how you should run the city. That's not my job. This is your job and you're on the hook for it. So I would rather empower you and give you what you want. And then the city will prosper because you're going to make sure these things get done. And we're going to be a better city council for it. So that's the other reason, final reason why I want to support this position. I'm done.
Councilor Pack, do you have questions or comments? Let's try to keep this to questions and then have discussion in the context of a motion if one's put on the floor.
Blending of the two, but I'll wait till.
Okay, that's fine. It's up to you. If you can't clearly parse the questions from the comments, save them for any discussion on a motion. Are there other questions? Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Actually, I have a question, but not a, I have a question because it got, did we agree to lower reserves? Because I don't remember having that discussion.
No, I think what he's referring to is we are gonna have a discussion in the budget about making shifts from money that's sitting in the general fund that our policies say should be moved to
Okay.
capital.
Thank you. Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Other questions for the city manager? No questions, Councilmember Cavalieri?
Mayor, I have comments, but I'd like to put a motion on the floor and of course defer to Councilmember Paddock since his light was on first. I'd like to make a motion to approve an ordinance modifying the 23-24 biennial budget to add a position to the salary schedule.
I'll second that.
Would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilmember Paddock. Since 2020, we've had these discussions of getting ourselves up to being fully staffed and getting in a position where we can sit back and allow the city to run itself. And what I'm hearing from the people that I've hired is that they need a position to be filled for projects that have languished, projects that are being delegated by committee, grants that have not been accepted or awarded in our favor, simply because we did not have what I called last week, I'm not going to go into it too much, the pivot man or something Martin or the city manager can place directly. But then I started reflecting a little bit further over the weekend and I thought, we just got through with our city manager's review and he received a very good review, so much that the council here gave him the highest bonus we could possibly award, and that reflected the trust that we had in him and his team and the product that he's put forward on behalf of the residents. And I thought a little further on that, and I thought how much this position reminded me of something we talked about a year and a half ago, which was the deputy police chief position, which was going to be cost neutral as well. Just like this position would be cost neutral as well. And we get to see the fruit that's born and we get to have the budget discussions in the next 6 months to decide if we're going to fund this or where we're going to cut, or where we're going to add. That's the way the process works. But our role has to be simple as council members, and in my humble opinion, is that we're here to support the city manager, our one employee, and he says he needs an employee to streamline the processes, streamline the contractors, streamline the consultants, and I'm going to support that. How could I not support it? So I'm in favor of this. And again, budgetary concerns for next year, I think we can have them at the end of the year when we start talking about the budget. Until then, this is cost neutral. I fully support it. Thank you.
Councilmember Paddock?
So I guess a question, comment for the most part. First of all, thank you, Martin, for answering the question. I think that helps me and the council around the context of the request. And I think you put that in writing, how this fits in with the projects that need to be worked on and how this fits in with other requests that were made. So thank you very much for that. I think that helps to support this request. I'm a little disappointed that, well, one of the things we did ask for was how does this fit in with the priority hires that were requested, but we couldn't fund as part of the 23-24 budget. And I would have liked to have seen, I understand that this is important now because of a particular situation, but how would this have fit in with the asks that we couldn't fund at the beginning of the budget year? That context, I think overall accountability is important. It's not going to impact my vote at this point, but I just think that would be important. What I would like to see with this particular role, because I think you have some comments in there around the KPIs and whatnot that the role is going to be able to impact, is at the end of the year, how did the role impact those KPIs? Some accountability on, we're going to spend X, we should understand the outcome Y. And I think that is a role of any board of directors, any oversight, is not just supporting, but holding not just supporting, but empowering the organization by requiring accountability, context, and consistency. So I want to see accountability for what the role is able to deliver. Those are my comments.
Other oh, Laurel, yeah, I'm sorry.
I just wanted, since we're talking about budget, I just wanted to bring up more than likely the different consultants that we bring on. This position will be able to help, so our fees would go down there. And then we will, as long as nothing crazy happens, we do plan on having legal fees go down again. So we're gonna be done with both negotiations. Hopefully, we continue the trend that we've been on with all of our different legal fees. And so we will have more room in the budget, and hopefully that will be enough to cover at least one or two positions.
That is correct. There are a lot of ways that we can work with our structure in our finances. And one of the things I keep talking about is how one of our highest costs is labor. And we're not working efficiently. And one of the reasons why we're not working efficiently is we don't have these projects, these basic projects completed. It's really difficult to put on paper, how much cost savings there would be from being more efficient. But we're wasting time in a lot of ways, which is the reason why the deputy city manager and I and staff are trying to separate our time in meetings and certain things, because it's expensive. We need to take a little bit of risk as well. I keep mentioning how we can't just work within the confines of the budget process or things that are your expectations of, we're going to bring things forward that you may not like, you may not see as feasible. But I do believe this type of position, and another thing too is important. We talked about the positions that were originally planned in the budget. A lot of decisions that deputy city manager and I make are dependent upon what we have now, the information we have from our directors in terms of what their needs are, what their capacity is. And I can tell you for a fact, I don't have everything for certain reasons. But what I do know is that this position is needed. Hiring the number of people and how many people you hire is not the way to go. It's who you hire and the value that you see in the people you hire. That's what's really important. And that's what we see is value across the people that we hire. And look for yourself. Look where we're at right now. We got you here and we plan to keep the ship moving forward. So thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it's clear how things are shaping up, but I want to just get out here and go on the record. And I did listen to all the conversation from last week. And I do find myself, unfortunately, in a position where I am not going to be in support of this tonight. And actually, that bothers me because I do want to give you whatever you want. And I do want to be supportive. And I do agree we need to let you manage the city. But I feel like it's our role to go through and manage the budget and manage the city with where we feel there is a need and what residents are telling us they need. And I struggle because I feel like too that we aren't getting some of these projects done, not because we're missing more people at an executive level, but because we don't have enough workers to actually be able to get the work done that are out there in the field. And my priorities right now are that we need those people, and we weren't able to hire those people in the budget process last time. And I feel like they really need that help, and I want to give them that help. And I can't get on board with creating a new position that's an upper level management position right now, when I feel like they really need so much help. So I'm not going to be, in support of this, tonight. And so I'm sorry, Martin. I hate to be against something that you're asking for. But I feel really strongly about this, that it's really important that we are funding these positions that are needed. And also, I will say as well that I trust that everyone that is in favor of creating this new position will also be supportive in doing what we need to do to fund this position as we move forward. So, I think that's all I've got to say. So thank you. And, thank you for bringing your recommendations to us and all the work that you do.
Any other comments on the motion? Councilmember Steckler.
Just a point of clarification, maybe I misunderstood, but I was looking at the job description. And Martin, maybe you can correct me here, but I've heard a couple of people talk about this is just another management position, which is not what we need. We need worker bees. And I saw this as a support position to these other departments, and maybe I misunderstood. They don't manage anything or body. They will help to, if anything, manage the effective completion of a project, but not the people. They're more like a project manager or consultant, somebody that would come in and help to get it done. And I know that that's where we've been missing, because I look at the projects, our worker bees don't complete a lot of these projects. We hire consultants to come in and complete, redo a park or some of these things that these CIPs that don't get done. And it's just been because we haven't had the engineers or the research or the support mechanisms in place there. And I thought this position, in my opinion, I thought it was to help assist in that level. And maybe I misunderstood, and I'd like
No,
to.
it's a support position. It's an analyst position. It has a management title, which the position will oversee the clerk's office.
The clerk's office.
That is correct.
They
But
will
the
oversee the clerk's
position
office.
is an analyst position that will support my office as well as department directors and managers.
And they'll be reporting to you, and you will direct their
That is
involvement.
correct. That is correct. Yeah.
So they're not going to be other people coming to them and other people coming to you to ask for this person's time to help complete
No,
their.
they will.
Yeah,
No, they will. Yes.
yeah.
That's correct.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Councilmember Paddock.
If I could just be clear on terminology, I think worker bee might be a little bit demeaning to folks who are in those roles. This is an individual contributor.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments? Just a couple of things. I said last week, I couldn't support it last week, but I was supportive of the position. I am supportive of it, and I will vote for it tonight. I think it's important for us to put into context when we talk about the operating within the budget. The decision we made last time on the positions, we asked staff to come to us with their wish list, and I think they came back with us 4 or 5 positions. And we were trying to fit that within our existing revenues that we had at that time without increasing any taxes. And we selected, I believe, 1 or 2, the deputy public safety position was one of them. We have a different decision to make this fall with the budget. We have 2.3 million in reserve in bank capacity now as a result of the fire annexation. So this isn't about in the fall operating within our budget. It's making decisions on what we need to provide the services for the city and whether we use the bank capacity to do that. So I think it's important to keep in mind that, yes, we were operating within the budget a couple of years ago when we made those decisions, but I think that's a different discussion that we have this fall, but I'm prepared to support the motion tonight. Is there any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, would all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Any abstentions? Motion passes 5-2. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now some ARPA talk.
All right. We're gonna get some numbers up here just so that everyone can follow along. Okay, so I'm gonna start with some history just because I don't know that everyone has been here since we got CARES funding. So back when COVID first hit, we did receive roughly $1 million in CARES funding, and that all went to our community. So we sent all of that money to our businesses and to the nonprofits. So once we got the ARPA funding, when we were considering all the different uses that we could, all the different uses for this funding, we ended up choosing revenue generation, employee retention incentives, or the rehabilitation, preservation, and beautification theme. So we went ahead and did the employee retention incentives, and then everything from that point has been under this theme that whatever project we do is going to either be some kind of rehabilitation for the city, some preservation, or some kind of beautification. So as a reminder, all COVID funds, starting March 3rd of 2021, have to be spent or at least obligated by December 31st of 2024. And they have to be out of our account. All funding has to be out of our account by 2026. So this is a really tight deadline that's coming up. We have a lot of funding that we are trying to get projects moving, but we've been tripping over our own feet. There are a lot of regulations around federal money, a lot of red tape. So what I'm coming to you with today is essentially a workaround that we have verified with the auditors is okay, that will help us take some of that red tape off so that we can start moving more quickly. We can work under our own purchasing policies. All right, so currently we have 4.2 million in allocated funding. So that means we have 4.2 million in projects that we've said, this is what we want to do. I can't, there we go, okay. Okay, so we have 4.2 that we've said, these are the projects that are our priorities. And we have 1.6 that we still haven't decided what we want to do yet. So right now where we're at is we have two main rules for ARPA. So we have the deadline for 2024 that all projects have to be completed and the funding has to be spent. Or two, projects have to be executed, or they have to have executed contracts by the end of the year, and then we have to spend all of the funding by 2026. So I think it's really important that we point out with this red tape, specifically around purchasing for the federal dollars, if you're talking anything over $10,000, there is bidding that's required. And so you're talking weeks, months, even for little purchases. So we have, think about our water fountains alone. We have to make sure that they're American made, all products are coming from America. And then we have to say, if this is gonna be over $10,000, we have to also bid this out and who's gonna give us the lowest bid. So it's a really tedious process that we can step around with this workaround that we have spoke to the auditors about. So what we're wanting to consider, I think I'm gonna need to make this a little smaller so that you can see everything. All right. So the main numbers that we're gonna be looking at are this 1.9 at the top in blue. So these are all of the projects that we currently have in place that we are 100% solid. We're gonna be able to knock this out of the park by the end of the year. No issue. We don't think we're gonna have any issues with the different federal regulations. So we would not like to move this funding. On everything else, we would like to move this into the general services expenses under revenue loss. So ARPA allows for 4 different types of expenses. So you can mitigate or contain COVID or its negative economic impacts. You can provide premium pay for eligible workers. you can do the revenue loss, which they have, I believe it was last year, they edited the revenue loss category to include a standard allowance of up to $10 million. So we did not get $10 million, but they're saying any money you got up to $10 million, you can put that under general services and then consider that a revenue loss, and it takes some of the red tape off. So a lot of the purchases that we've been talking about doing, that's what we were talking about. So traditionally, general services are going to be any traditionally provided government services like police, fire, and public safety. So at this point in time, we are looking at moving gotta get the number, I'm sorry.
Sorry on that.
The 2.3 and the 1.6. So we're looking at moving these two amounts. And I thought I wrote it on my paper somewhere. I know it's like, I'm sorry, 4.2, 3.9. Thank you. Thank you so much. So we're talking about moving 3.9 in ARPA funding from the general fund expense. So basically what we're going to say is we're going to take it out of this pocket and stick it in this one. All projects are going to remain the same. We are not changing anything other than we're going to say we're going to take the general services expenses, take them out of the general fund. So your general fund expenses will go down, and then those will go into ARPA. But then all of your ARPA expenses that we're expecting to spend, those are then going to go into the general fund. And so general fund dollars will pay for all of those expenses. So that's going to remove the red tape so we can follow all of our municipal codes, our own purchasing policy. We can go and get 3 quotes for anything under 50,000. We don't have to do heavy competitive bidding. So by doing this, I think the biggest thing is why would we want to do this? So by doing this, we're going to remove the short deadline and the risk of losing federal dollars. So I think that's the biggest key here. While still completing projects by the 2026 deadline. So we are not saying we're not going to do these. We 100% are going to do this. It's just going to make it so much easier.
So Laurel, another way to understand this is that we have $3.9 million worth of expenses already budgeted that would qualify for ARPA funds.
Correct.
So if we use that 3.9 to pay for those budgeted items, then we're done with our ARPA funds. We've complied with all of it. We're 2 years ahead of, or a year and a half ahead of 2026. And then we have those freed up budget dollars that we'll just turn around and use for what we've identified for our ARPA projects.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, so streamlining purchasing, we remove the federal use limitations, and we give that flexibility to council to spend this money the way you want.
And we're not worried about getting it done by 2026.
Exactly. So if we end up deciding, hey, we really need a bigger public works yard, and we don't find one until February, if that's a council priority, then we're not going to lose the money. Where now, if we did it, we would have to find something before December and have the money out. Otherwise, we would lose it. So I'm stressing, we're not removing ARPA projects, just changing where the money's coming from. We're removing the timeline with the risk of loss. We're removing the federal use limits, and we're providing a greater flexibility on projects and unallocated funds. Any questions?
Councilmember Steckler.
Yes, I had a couple questions. I wasn't quite as clear as everyone else. I understand the first column of 1.943 is projects that are in process. Okay, we're past and then the other grouping, which is an additional 2.315, those are projects that we've approved that we like, but we haven't got started on them yet, correct?
Some of them we have started, but because of some of the federal red tape, we do think it would be in the city's best interest to stay under our own municipal code versus using federal dollars.
And they're ones that are less certain about our ability to get expended before the end of 26.
If we approve these two numbers, doesn't that leave us with an additional 1.58 in unallocated ARPA funds, or is that unallocated general funds?
Unallocated general funds.
So we are with the 1.9 and the 2.3 is the total amount of ARPA, the 5.839 ARPA funding?
Yes, so we'll have the 1.9 in projects that are staying in ARPA.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have the 2.3 in projects that are already allocated. And then we're gonna expect council to still decide what projects they want for the 1.almost 6.
But-
And that'll total the 5.8.
Right, thank you. Okay, so the 1580, that's still ARPA funds.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, so that's,
For now.
okay, so I want to make sure I understood. So totally agree that we want to move the 2315 into the general fund. I understand that and that's smart and we'll get going. My concern with moving the 1580 in addition to it is that we haven't allocated them yet. And I worry about convoluting. I'd rather us find out how we'd like to use those funds, gain agreement on it, and then make the move
We're
into,
still gonna do that.
well,
I
but
guarantee
if we,
you, I will not mix these funds with anything else. So we will keep
that is my
everything
concern.
tracked.
That is my concern. There's a lot of moving parts and I don't know why we, given the timeline that we have, why wouldn't we want to go ahead and allocate the 1580, make that a priority? Let's get
And
that
we
done.
can do that over future meetings. But if you leave it under ARPA, you are gonna be held to those federal restrictions. And so we are gonna have to do this again. So for this, to not have the strings of, this is either containing or mitigating COVID, it's premium pay for eligible workers, or it's an investment in water, sewer, broadband, we're gonna have to do this piece no matter what, to claim the revenue loss.
So the ability to move it into general funds due to loss of revenue for the city, we
That's
can't
the
do that?
category that it's under.
Right.
It's not gonna be moved into general funds. The funds will be used to pay for general fund expenses. They're gonna have a counting line item, and I'm not sure where it's gonna be. There will still be ARPA funds, and we'll call it something different probably than ARPA funds, but they're just no longer gonna be subject to the restrictions of the ARPA program, but they're still there. There's still funds that we will use for the ARPA, what we're calling the ARPA projects.
And so
Be
we'll
its own
mark
separate
that.
bucket, right? Be its
Yes.
own separate
Yes.
bucket. We still can draw from it when necessary.
Yes.
So it'll be under an unallocated expense line so that you never lose it.
All right, so you're still gonna be under the same time constraints to get that 1580.
No,
Those,
'Cause
if we do what we're talking about doing tonight, we're gonna remove that times restraint. We're gonna remove the risk. We're gonna say all ARPA funding, except for this 1.9 that already has projects.
Mhm.
Everything else is gonna be covered by general fund police salaries, basically.
So you don't have to allocate it, we still got it. In other
Right.
words, yeah, you could not allocate this to any specific fund and we wouldn't be penalized for it. We wouldn't lose it.
Right, yeah, so
Yeah,
we're keeping
that's-
it, and
that's-
then
Yeah,
in this,
I
Uh,
understand. Me personally, I wish we could not do that and instead allocate it first and then make that move. I mean, I think there's some money here that was available that would really help us to do. I hate to see that money being used for general operating expenses.
it will.
And that's my
not.
concern is if
Yeah.
it's in the general fund and we don't have to allocate it anywhere because we've already done it, it could be used for general operating expenses.
It
And-
will be separated from our other general funds, whether it's in its own account. I know we've been going back and forth on how we wanted to do it, whether we wanted to stick it in council contingency so it doesn't get lost, everything. Or if we wanted to stick it in its own, just we're leaning away from ARPA once we take the strings off of that and calling it the rehabilitation, preservation and beautification projects. But this will not get mixed in with the general fund. It has been our finance director and I's top priority. How do we keep this separate? How do we keep this flowing from budget to budget so this doesn't get mixed in? And that's the whole thing. So we're not, so like when we take these expenses from police, from their budget that have already been spent, we're not giving them that authority back.
So these funds, by doing this, could be effectively used for maybe towards DRCC.
Correct.
I feel a little bit better if I knew that's what it was gonna be used for. Then I would know, okay, that's where it's going. That's what I like. So,
Yeah, so it will not be spent until you guys tell us what we can spend it on. And I do know we have a few projects from police and public works that they've come forward and I said, we've got this on the docket. So let's work on getting this passed and then we can bring it forward to cover for general.
We've spent so much on a lot of operating expenses, trucks and pavers and slicers and dicers and everything else that was smart. But I'd like to make sure that this goes for something besides an operating expense, and you're gonna have people coming forward and asking for it. And that's my concern. I really want this preserved.
So
And
that will be up to you guys.
yeah, I could say no.
So
but-
I've told them this money cannot be spent like normal general dollars. We already have the resolutions in place. This is how we want everything to go. So nothing is coming out of here that hasn't gone through council first.
So you won't even be bringing us those operating expenses as potentials because you'll stop it down before it ever comes to us. Right?
Well, I will have them brought as a study session to request it.
Even though we don't want to use them for operating expenses.
Oh, no, not normal operating expenses. No,
All right.
I was talking, they're talking new equipment and different things.
Yeah. to
Yeah,
me
so that'll be up to you guys.
That's operating expenses to me, new equipment. All right, I have a concern with this, but I've voiced my opinion. Thank you.
Councilmember Paddock.
Hopefully, we're not leaning into micromanaging anyone. I had two questions. One, what's the downside? I mean, this seems like why doesn't everybody do this? Is there a downside to doing this?
This is why they did the standard allowance, because so many cities were struggling with spending their money and they weren't spending their money because they were like, we don't know what we can actually do. We're having all this red tape, like we want to do this, and then we find out we can't do this, this, and this. And so they weren't spending dollars fast enough, and that's when the federal government said, okay, we're gonna try to give you a way you can spend the dollars and you're not worried about losing them.
Okay, that's great. And then it sounds like, all joking aside, it does sound like finance director will have a separate account that we'd look at during the finance committee meetings, the Ermina account that has okay.
Yes.
Perfect, thank you.
She'll have a debit card to it too.
Debit card included,
And everyone
yes.
thinks I'm tough, but Ermina is even tougher.
We know.
Councilmember Duque.
This is that perfect example of me trying to read this over the weekend and going, oh, I'm gonna need Laurel to explain what's happening here. And I just want to say thank you first. I do have questions, but that you were able to, with Ramina, we're able to, and I'm sure with everyone, I don't want to exclude anyone, to think through how do we do this, and that you made it your priority, because we kept saying, what are we doing? I think in every meeting, we were like, what's happening? And I know our city managers told me, don't worry, we have it. And I was very confused because I didn't know how we would get there. So this is really helpful to know that you found a way, you spoke to the auditors, you figured this way, that this is an opportunity that we can do it. So, I'm absolutely supportive of what this would look like. I did want to flag, that I am, and this is, first is a question, because it was Mayor Holtzclaw who explained it. So initially though, the money will get used right away, because that's how we can move it over. It's gonna pay for things that we have in our general budget it's gonna pay for that. But whatever the money then that in our bank account that we didn't use for that, then becomes this, correct? Okay. That's what, yes, they're both all saying yes.
That's exactly what
So general
happens.
fund
So don't say
expenses
no.
are gonna go down because they're being paid by ARPA.
Yes,
So then all of your ARPA projects are then going to replace those expenses, but it's gonna be in its own separate account.
yes, but that's what I wanted to confirm, because that's where I didn't understand. I didn't know how that worked. So that's why so we'll be good there, but we're not, in our minds, you don't want us to think of it that way, because we still need to think about it as a separate line item, that it's still protected, it's all that. But the answer is to do this, is that we use it for our operating budget, but we like our what we have, for projects that we have to do, and then the money that didn't get used then becomes this money. So what I want, one of my notes, so thank you for that, because I didn't understand how this was gonna happen, so I appreciated Mayor Holtzclaw flagging it, because that's when I went, oh, okay. And so thank you for that clarification. I would love if it is called, I actually have here, I hate acronyms, but I actually was like, I'd love if we referred to it as something. I know we won't want to refer to it as ARPA, but it should be like RPA or something where we know, do you know what I mean? That it's like close. I'm happy if it's Arena, whatever the name is, but so that we remember that that's the point, because even though this money's going, and even though there's going to be a lot of less restrictions, I think it's still really important that we think through this money about what
Yes.
the point of it was. And I happen to be the opposite end of Councilmember Steckler. I like operational in terms of equipment. I think that's where this money should go. So I'll always be supportive of any requests that come that way for this type of funding. But that's me. And, there's obviously 5 others who, in addition to Steckler and I, who won't agree on that part. So that was my comment. I just wanted to share. I think it's really important that we do that. And I still would like us to try to see if we can get these things, I still would like us to allocate the 1.5 by the end of this year and still work towards accomplishing all of them, by, I know it is so cold, by 2026. So I still have, as a council member, still hope that we can, move forward with that. So thank you very much. And it also got very cold here. I want to put that on the record because I'm freezing.
Yeah, so my goal is actually mid next year to have everything done. Because I do think a lot of these projects we're gonna be able to streamline because we don't have the red tape. So the goal is mid 2025, you can hold me to that. But 2026 at the absolute latest, because we do not want it to look like some reserve funding.
Councilmember Ellison.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, so you made 2 points that red tape is cleared because the bidding process just falls back to our normal municipal code. So instead of having to go out for a bid and wait for that timeline to occur, you just have to send it out to 3 different competitors, or can you explain that a little bit further?
So on our purchasing policy, we have anything under 10,000. So again, all of these projects have to be pre-approved by you. And we already knew that anything 50,000 or above, you guys wanted to see. So our purchasing policy is anything 10,000 or below, we can do direct negotiations. And so that is the same with federal, but it's once you cross that with federal, it gets a lot more difficult where you have to start doing the bidding. Where on ours, we can get 3 quotes and we can go and we can talk to our neighboring agencies and say, we're looking at this GIS system. Which one do you like best? Why? What is, maybe they have the Cadillac version and that's not what we're looking for, but maybe there are certain things that we really need, especially if we're looking toward the future, that the cheapest version of whatever software, maybe that's not going to work for us. And if we were in the federal process, if they were the lowest bidders, that's where we would have to go. So then our next step, so we've got anything up to 50,000 is the 3 quotes under our policy. Anything 50,000 or above is going to have to go to council.
Okay, and then you mentioned one other provision that we wouldn't have to live with under, which was that everything has to be American made to go through or to keep it earmarked as federal dollars. So what does our municipal code, do we have any slant that we look for? No, okay.
No, we look for the best deal. And we do still have the competitive bidding after 50,000, but I'm not intimately familiar with all of the federal regulations. I just know when I was talking to Dan, our city engineer, who is very familiar with them, he was listing them off. Like he had like 5 or 6. I don't know if Mike has a few, but I know he was like, there's no way we can do any of these. Like we've got to do this, 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 this. He was like, there's just no way we're going to get this done, like any of them. And he was like, then we're not going to get any of the actual technology that we really should be getting. He was like, we should not be spending this with federal dollars. And I was like, all right, I will try to communicate that.
Thank you. That is helpful.
Councilmember Cavalieri.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll be quick. I'm grateful that the federal government provided this extension on the funds. I think taking away the timelines allows the staff to take a breath and in the end will effectively eliminate wasteful spending or just recklessly trying to spend it a last minute just to get it spent. So I supported this when I read it over the weekend, and thanks for making it even more clear. I figured cities or counties or even states were having the same difficulties trying to get these spent in the appropriate time frame. So I support it. Thank you.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion. I move to approve an ordinance authorizing the appropriation of ARPA funds for government services expenses under ARPA's standard allowance.
Second.
Is there any discuss?
I'll speak to it.
Would you, I'm sorry, would you
And-
like to speak to your motion?
I just want to add that I am in support of this motion and that this is what I wanted to do from the beginning. And so I'm happy to see that we are here. It frees up and gives us more flexibility with how we spend the money. And I feel like it's a better use of the resource and it is better able to do what, in my opinion, it was intended to do. So I'm happy to support this and that we have went full circle and we're back to where I was at the very beginning. So maybe patience does pay off sometimes. So I am supportive of this motion tonight. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
I have a discussion comment.
Councilmember Steckler?
Yeah, I just want to go on record, make sure I'm clarified here. I don't have any problem with the transfer of the funds into the general fund. I understand what you're trying to accomplish. My concern, and maybe I'm alone on this, is just that of this almost $6 million that we got, I had such hopes of what we could do with that money to help our city. And we've helped it a lot with staffing compensation and retroactive bonuses and with a lot of equipment purchases and a lot of technology purchases. And much as I would like to say that I have to disagree with some of the council members, I don't want to see this money being used for to come disappearing into the general budget. And even if you replace it, I truly believe that we could do something great for our city with this 1.5 million if that's what we earmarked it for. So even if this was earmarked to help the execution of our new strategy for the city, I support it 100% if I knew that's what the money was going to be used for, not specifically, but to help accomplish that goal of moving our city forward in the next 5 years. I know that's not going to happen because we're not going to rewrite it, but so I'm not against what you're trying to do. I'm just against how you're doing it at this point, and that's for that reason. I won't vote for it.
I want to thank staff for bringing this to us. This is a good idea. And the way I look at it, this doesn't change anything we do with this $5.8 million. Nothing is going to change about the decisions we make or the process we make, how we allocate it. This all has to deal with how the accountants deal with the dollars on the ledger. That's all this is. It's not about whether we're going to disappear into the general fund or transfer money. It's all about how money is accounted for. That's all this is about. We're not moving money into the general fund. It's moving money around on the books. So it's spent for ARPA purposes, but it's still there for our purposes of something that we're going to call different than ARPA at some point. Maybe we'll have a naming competition to replace ARPA. But I support this and it doesn't affect anything we're doing. We're going to continue with that 1.6 million or so we have left the same way we've done it for the prior my math is bad, whatever the difference is, as we've done it before. So I support this motion. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay, and I'll hold the I told you so.
Any abstentions? Okay, the motion passes 6-1. Thank you for guiding us through that. Okay, the new business item, the PSRC General Assembly is May 30th. As you may recall, everyone's invited to attend there. We need to designate one person to technically be the voting person who votes on behalf of the city for the officers and so forth that are nominated for the coming year. I plan to attend. I'm happy to be the designated voting member or representative if you like, or whoever else wants to do it if they're planning to attend. But we need to appoint someone and let the PSRC know. So, Mayor Pro Tem?
I vote since you're the mayor and you are already definitely going to allow you to be that person.
Is that a motion?
Sure, I move to allow Mayor Holtzclaw to be our designated voter at the Puget Sound Regional Council meeting. What is it? Annual
Second.
meeting or-
Any discussion?
Make us proud.
All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes 7-0. Study session, finally, Mr. Fenty, thank you for sitting through that lively discussion for the last hour and 20 minutes. City manager.
All right, thanks. This is gonna be a dual effort between Rob and myself, but I'll just introduce it first and then and start with the session. Last week we had the opportunity to listen to Rob present the draft of the strategic vision. As you know, there's some edits that need to happen. He provided us with how the community engagement did support and to some extent the themes that were provided as well as the next steps. And I wanted to bring this back because I felt it was a need to kind of get this solidified, at least sooner than later. State of the City is coming up on April 24th. So we want to have a completed version of this ready so that we can at least hand this out or in some way use this as part of our, as a mayor's presentation and communicating that to our residents in our community. So that's why it's on the study session for today. And the version that you see here actually has been edited a little more than what, based on the discussions that all of you had with Rob today or the past few days. And then, so this is a edited version. We're going to continue editing this. And I think we're really close to kind of getting something final. So let's go ahead and let you move to the next slide. And then we could start talking about any questions or concerns you have and any final changes. I think we'll go straight to this slide, Rob. What do you think?
Yep.
Okay.
The thing I would reiterate on this too is I'm really pleased with the engagement that all of you have had on this. Each of you have seen this now more than twice, and have weighed in with your voices. I'm really confident of the alignment that you've reached across the themes, and really now there's some wording. There's some minor wording that I know some of you have raised. Councilmember Paddock, in the last week's session, you raised a question around the wording under safe and clean regarding the traffic flow. And I tested that this week with multiple of you. The thing that reflecting on that, that statement was a bit more specific than the rest of the vision. It started to be a little bit more directive in terms of what to do. And so in reflecting on that with several of you, I'm recommending that we take that language out. So that sentence would simply reflect that the police force is an integral part of the community, ensuring active police presence and integrating appropriate technologies to keep our community safe. I will say Mayor Holtzclaw also today provided some recommended edits, none of which I found structural or substantive in terms of changing the meaning of the vision statement, but simply a little bit more specific on some of the wording, and we've printed that out for you as well so that you can see that.
Rob, where is that? I don't see that. No, I know, I see that. I don't see.
The printout?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to ask
Did Adrian get that?
ask
to us? I
Adrian. Did that get printed out?
It should have, yeah. We did just this.
No, I had an email with a kind of a red line I created with my suggestions. It was gonna print it out and put it on the dais with, I don't think we have that.
Okay, we'll get that.
Does he have that email? So this was at the last meeting or last time we discussed this, there was a desire expressed to do a little wordsmithing. So that's what tonight's endeavor is, to walk through it and wordsmith it to get it to a point where the seven of us feel it's final that we can use to start shopping, starting with the state of the city in a couple of weeks.
Mayor, I don't have that email with your edits, but I'm looking for it now. Rob said he sent it to me, but I do not see it, so I'll get it to you guys as soon as I can.
Adrian, I'm gonna go ahead and forward it again, just in
I
case something
I
happens.
just forwarded it to him.
Thank you.
As an option, is it, are we able to bring the email up on the screen? No, okay.
I don't think he has it.
I don't wanna-
I can bring it up. One
Oh,
second.
here, yeah, he can-
It's the bottom part. So at the top, what you see is what got me thinking about this is I was reading the county's draft comp plan update. And there was some language, they had a vision statement in their comprehensive plan that had some language in it that um, struck me. And so one of the things from the outset that occurred to me was, and just in the wording, that I view this as we're trying to set out what the vision is for the city in 2040. And that's why my suggestion was Mill Creek's strategic vision for 2040, and then in 2040, how we see the city. So in 2040, Mill Creek is a thriving, is how, at least I was thinking of a vision statement for us. And again, no pride of authorship. These are just my ideas that came to mind when I went through this.
Man on that.
Yeah.
And Rob, you can help me out here on, this is our vision statement, but we also would we not want to have a mission and then vision for what we want to do in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yes, so this vision statement would be the context for any time you go into planning. That these 4 themes I would recommend are front and center as you take on the conversation now of what are our 3 to 5 year priorities going to be, which kicks off staff's planning, where they come back with a plan, and that should then align to the budget. So you have full alignment from your vision to your 3 to 5 year priorities, to your plan, to your budget, and it keeps you on track and accountable. So those are the meetings I'm having this week with each of you to start leaning forward into what do you believe are the 3 to 5 year priorities now in context to the vision.
Right. So if we're just wordsmithing, by adding the 2040, that's a vision that we have for 2040. But I think we have that as a vision for quite a bit before 2040. It's not something we want to achieve by that date. So my feeling was adding the 2040 takes away the impact of getting action done today. So, and again, just wordsmithing, and I've talked to you about this, Rob. I feel that in this statement, it's got both a mission and vision together in it. The mission here of us, Mill Creek, is that Mill Creek is a thriving, connected, and safe community, period. That's our mission. That's who we are. That's what we are here to do. And that our vision is that we'll be recognized or characterized by our walkability, well-maintained parks, trails, and that's the goal of what we want. Our vision is to be recognized for these things that connect to our mission statement. So I would rather see us break the mission statement out of those first few words and make that our mission statement, and then add Mill Creek is, or Mill Creek will be characterized to the balance of it for our vision statement. That seems to make a little bit more sense to me, but that's just wordsmithing.
The one thing I would guide you is that this is meant to be an aspirational North Star. You want something effectively guiding you in terms of where do you want the city to be at a marked point in time, and we picked 2040. As you take on the conversation of 3 to 4 year priorities, I would expect those to be much more specific. You're taking guidance from this, but you want them then to be much more tangible and specific that you can start planning around.
But doesn't this give us our vision? These are the areas we want to focus on.
Exactly. So
we're
you
not
would
being
look through this.
specific on that. We're just saying walkability, parks and trails, clean and safe, community engagement. Those are kind of the structure of our vision. That's what we're deciding where we want to go. Does it fit into one of these Because if it doesn't, it's not fitting with our vision.
Yes,
Right.
when you define your 3 to 5 year priorities, one of the ways I would test you is do they line up with these 4 themes that you've identified? And most of your priorities, I would expect, will actually hit multiple themes. And in the conversations we've already had, we've seen that you come up with a priority, we can trace it back to generally at least 2 of the themes, which is a good alignment.
Yeah, and again, the mission statement says, what are you here for? What are you supposed to be doing? And we're supposed to be providing a thriving, connected, and safe community. That's it. That's our mission.
Yeah, now we're into wordsmithing, which I appreciate. One of the things I would, I'll give you my own personal view on mission, vision, values, and I know you have that. I actually had the privilege of studying under Jim Collins, who started this whole madness of mission, vision, values. And I've seen over the years that organizations actually go awry in their use of what these are. The original intention of mission, vision, values was a North Star, that every organization should know exactly what it's intending to do and where it's intending to be so that all planning can be in service to that. You actually don't have to have all 3. As long as you have an aspirational North Star, which I think this provides the city, it gives you that alignment and planning to gut check yourself. So I don't actually, although I believe in his work, I don't get too hung up on you have to have a mission, you have to have a vision, you have to have values. What I do to hold very tight is you have to have a very clear North Star. And you have to then align your priorities and your planning to that and hold yourself accountable to that. Otherwise, you risk having things come from all over the place when you get into planning and then you're not aligned. So I will tell you, I think the vision that you've created here and your collective work provides that. I feel good about it. I think it will be a good tool for you in planning and holding yourself accountable. I think now we are to wordsmithing and have at it in terms of recommendations of any words that you'd like to update.
Councilmember Duque?
Thank you. So but my first question was making sure that's what we were doing now is this part. So I like the one on the original. So if I can just in general notes, the Mill Creek Strategic Vision 2040. I like that. I like how it says Mill Creek is thriving, connected, and safe community characterized by its walkability. I think that's key, and I wouldn't. I appreciate your feedback, but I think this because we're supposed to say, at least in my understanding, I'm supposed to say this each time. Are we there? Is Mill Creek there? And we will hopefully be there before 2040 in reference. The first, so I was able to review the document that was shared, and I don't actually, after going back and forth, don't have any wordsmithing on this one. But if we're looking at what Mayor Holtzclaw shared, the 2 things I definitely would want to push back on that we wouldn't update in terms of wordsmithing is the first bullet point, and that it calls out Town Center and Mill Creek Boulevard sub area. I wouldn't do that. I would recommend that we all want to keep it, has multiple commercial hubs with a vibrant central core, because they're, I think of the farm, I think, there's other areas. So I wouldn't go so specific there, but knowing that that's what we're doing. And then the other one I would push back on is the underneath thriving, engaged, connected community. And of course, if we decide to get rid of thriving, then that would move. But it's specifically the city's multi-purpose community facility. I like the way it's existing already, that's the city's multi-purpose community facility and public spaces bring people together to connect, play, share, and enjoy life in Mill Creek. Because I still, I understand that has developed, but it's, at that point, we should have developed it, but that's not the vision for 2040. The vision is whatever that is a place that brings people together, connect, play, share, and enjoy in life. So those are the 2 suggested edits that I would like to not move forward with as we do this wordsmithing exercise.
Mr. Mayor, may I add a comment to that?
Yeah, fine.
Councilmember Duquesne's comment on the first bullet is actually a great example of the difference between what lives in the strategic vision and what might live in a 3 to 5 year priority. That in the strategic vision, the language may live as a vibrant central core. When you define the 3 to 5 year priority, you may be calling out the sub areas specifically to say that is in the 3 to 5 year horizon that we want staff to move forward on.
I didn't see who was next. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with Councilmember Decay. I feel very strongly that we do keep it as the multiple commercial hubs for the same exact reason, because I think we have residents that already feel like we focus too much on the town center and there's more to the city than just the town center. And thinking of the farm and also thinking of the area out behind QFC too, that could potentially become an area for a thriving hub later. I don't want to just call out town center and the Mill Creek Boulevard sub-area, because I think that limits us in scope. So I prefer to keep it broader. Also, I'm trying to think, what else did council member? Oh, yeah, and I also think that we need to keep the multipurpose community centers in there, because that's something that we are saying is one of our priorities, and we need to make that vision come to life. And
Can you explain? I'm not understanding the comment. I wasn't proposing to delete the reference to the community center
it's not in your,
has developed a multi.
oh, sorry, I missed it.
center.
Sorry.
And, you know, my clarification is, I don't like that it says has developed, because I think it should just, like,
Got it.
that's
Oh, I got it.
unnecessary.
Okay,
Okay, you
I
got
didn't-
my
I
part,
didn't
yes.
understand your comment. Thanks.
Sorry. Eyesight missed it. But I also don't like taking out the thriving as well in because I like it saying thriving, engaged and connected community. Because I think, to me, that's something that's very important for this vision, is that we want the city to be thriving. And that's part of all the economic development and all the changes that we're discussing, implementing, is to have a thriving community. So I prefer to keep that in there.
I don't disagree. The reason why it struck me is none of the bullets referenced it. And so I wasn't sure what the
Got it.
connection was to it. So I mean, that was just my suggestion. On the other point, the reason why I suggested that change is I was confused because down under thriving, engaged and connected community, we have a reference to the multiple business hubs. And then second, we have up above the central business core. And the central business core is specific to town center, and we're just voted unanimously 2 months ago to focus a lot of our growth on the sub area. And so that first bullet point is not referencing the multiple business hubs, which is referenced down below. It's referencing our central business core, which we have embarked the planning commission on an effort to come up with a proposed sub area plan to expand our central business core from town center south. So that was my reasoning for suggesting that change. I was trying to distinguish it from the city has multiple town centers and community hubs.
I had an issue on that farm thing too, and then I saw that this third bullet there, I guess, was added, and that seemed to scratch the itch from my perspective. Yeah.
I'll just make a brief comment too. Under financial health and economic vitality, I guess, does the community, the multiple hubs fall under that as well? So can you have community hubs in front of that town center piece of it, and then that first bullet as well?
I'd almost argue that we have the first bullet that's up there now about the central business core, but then have an additional bullet that we have other business hubs in the city. And the reality is.
Doesn't the word multiple in the sentence just get us there?
Yeah, I guess my thought was, and with what we've decided to do with the sub area, they're not all equal. They're different in size, and if we are able to execute on the sub area, the reality is that will be more of a downtown-like core, different from the farm, different from the area up by Sprouts, or different from any other portion of the city. So that's why I was trying to distinguish and why it stood out to me, but that's just my thoughts. What happened to my signal? Did
That's a
everyone else
valid
lose
point.
it too?
Nope, just you.
No.
Oh, just that half maybe.
I don't have a key to press.
I'm still working too.
I've been cut off.
It's the guys, the guys on, the guys,
Yes. Yes,
One-
thank you.
the guys lost their screens.
Oh, it's
They came
back. It's back. As soon as Mike came over.
Thank
They
you.
wanted you to come visit us tonight.
But you can't.
I think we have a, clear example, listening to everybody about both of those statements are strong. That there is a strength in having a strong town center, Mill Creek Boulevard to make that a destination, but also I like that third line, down there in the engaged community, but I think we could take out the community hubs, and the city has multiple business centers, where retail, dining and businesses thrive and bring our community together. So we have multiple hubs in addition to the town center. I don't think I want to take it out, but I wouldn't want to, isolate it as the only business center we have. I do like both of those lines. I think there's a strength in both of them.
Do you think that fits better up under health?
do.
Financial
I do
health
under
and
financial health.
vitality?
Which one?
Yeah, the idea is that
The third bullet under
third-
thriving and engaged,
yeah, the one that's being highlighted now,
moving it up.
but I would
under
take out
financial.
the community hubs because you're going to make it an economic. Yeah, just delete the community hubs.
I'm not sure what we mean by community.
The
hubs.
city has multiple business centers where retail, dining and businesses thrive and bring our community together.
May I ask a question? So the line we're looking at though is only in Mayor Holtzclaw's email. It's not in the original document or in the document in our packet.
That's true.
Oh, it's
So,
not.
so
It was an earlier.
an earlier version,
I may have.
but it's
grabbed-
not in
Yeah, I
this
may have-
version.
I forgot to make that caveat. I grabbed what I thought was the most current and I may have
Right, yeah,
grabbed
'cause-
the one that had, that wasn't.
Yeah,
the-
we're looking at his
Perfect,
stuff
because
here,
if you,
not
the,
final stuff.
because I actually like, and I don't mean to cut anyone off, that was next. Just let me flag that and then I can ask my next question again.
Go ahead.
Oh, is it okay?
Yeah.
If yeah, so I'm, because it's on what was presented to us, it says the city's there isn't a reference to, business centers or community hubs in the thriving engaged area. It's only the next sentence, the city has developed, the city's multi-purpose community facility. So that sentence about business centers and community hubs, isn't in the thriving, engaging, connected community. So we so it's already, that would be the financial health and economic vitality. I read the first bullet point differently than I think how Mayor Holtzclaw read it, because I read it as Mill Creek has multiple commercial hubs with a vibrant central core. I didn't read it as separate. I read as we have many places and there happens to be one that's the central core. I didn't see it like one higher than the other. And I liked that it was vague. Broad?
If those two are combined in that way, I think that makes sense. I probably wasn't looking at the most recent version, so that would make sense. if they're
Okay.
Combined, 'cause
Yeah.
I think that addresses what
They are combined, yeah.
Councilmember
Okay,
Seifert and I
good.
were just talking about.
Cause so that's the way it's in our packet one, because I like it that way.
You're right.
Because
I see.
I assume our vibrant central core will probably be the sub area and town center, like it'll be all that. So it gives it a good weight that we have these areas. So again, the one in the packet,
Yeah, keep the packet.
the
Yes.
one, so if I can just, so the ones in the packet versus what Mayor Holtzclaw shared that in reverse or in here. The ones I like of the mayor's comments would be the third bullet point. Mill Creek has enough money in reserves to both strategically invest in the city and cover unanticipated operating expenses. That's the one that's being highlighted. I like the mayor's edit. I mean, I'm happy either way.
Yeah.
The other one I liked of the mayor's edit is again, happens to be the last one in Safe and Clean. Again, because it's the thing, because it was just and is instead
Not
of
the
ampersand.
ampersand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a rule in my style guide, so I that's just a preference of mine. And then the other two in the thriving, engaged and connected community, I like his edits on Mill Creek, the second bullet, Mill Creek, hold on. Mill Creek actively supports community events. Yes, I liked the mayor's that says Mill Creek and its residents actively supports community events to bring community members together. I thought that read fine. Again, I'm still happy with the original. I wouldn't make any changes, but if we were, I like that one. And then the last bullet in here, it starts with the people of Mill Creek in the original or in the main version. In Mayor Holtzclaw's, in the mayor's version, it says Mill Creek residents are actively engaged. I liked how that was written. So I would be happy to support those 4 edits from the packet copy. And I think any other of the edits I might push back on. Oh, sorry, Mill Creek's police force. I see that the mayor wanted to say Mill Creek's police department.
Same.
So happy, that makes sense. That's a little technique, but those are the ones that any of the other kind of like playing around. I think maybe it's because you didn't see the most recent one, I think you maybe will take a look and you'll go, oh, okay.
I was just trying to spark discussion.
And I loved it. Thank
And I
you.
did.
The one add I would make to that or change, I like the public safety department rather than police department. It's my little call out.
That's fine. Huh? What? Oh, no, I was watching Rob type before it. Hold on. I didn't want to get another conversation going. Councilmember Cavalier?
I really don't have too much. First of all, Rob, good job. I love this. I think it reflects a lot of what we've talked about and what I've heard my colleagues say up here. Councilmember Duquesne's comments, I agree with those as well. Councilmember Paddock's change to public safety department is an integral part. I like all of those. And even if it was left as a standalone as is, I'd be okay with that. So there's not much to change here. Good job, everyone. Thanks. Looks like we're all in the same boat.
Sean, you took your light off. You're good?
Yes.
Okay.
I wanted to add Stepler's name to this, but.
Councilmember Allison?
So if we change it to, I don't have a problem with changing it to the police department, but the public safety department, we don't have a department within the city called the public safety department. We have a police department. So I have a little bit of a problem with that.
Didn't we hire the director of public safety?
The microphones can't pick it up.
What is,
He isn't here, but I think it's also, he's called the Director of Public Safety. And public safety includes like disaster preparedness and those kinds of things. So I think that's important. That's broader than just police. I think that's why you use the broader term sometimes.
Yeah, well, that's a position, but okay.
So, I'm sorry, I didn't raise my hand.
Councilmember Duque?
Thank you. So it should say, if we're going that way, it should say public safety is an integral part of the community, ensuring active police presence, because that references the police department, integrating appropriate technologies and and integrating appropriate technologies to keep our community safe.
I think I've got it.
No, but is that okay with everyone? It says public safety is an integral part. I think that's a really strong statement that we're saying that. Because then we're taking it, because then we are making it broad to include the natural, I don't know, I can't think of that word, whatever, disaster preparedness. But I also am fine if it says police department too.
Let me take a shot at it, Rob. How about Mill Creek's focus on public safety as an integral part of the community, ensuring active police presence and integrating, blah, blah, blah. I think that encompasses everything.
Did you get that?
Can you do it one more time?
Sure. Mill Creek's focus on public safety is an integral part of the community. And the rest already exists.
I like that.
Does everybody like that?
Yes.
And public safety also implies public works as well, because there are safety components to how public works. Yeah, that's correct.
Other comments? Other wordsmith? Director Todd?
Sorry, we did keep out the traffic flow, right? Because like when we're looking at the ones that Mayor
Yes, it's not-
Holtzclaw versus what
it's
we've
not-
got.
We took that
Okay,
wording
I just
out.
want to make sure that, because
Yes.
the,
Director Todd?
I wanted to ask a question about the last bullet under the thriving, engaged and connected community. I don't disagree. The Mill Creek residents has a better flow to it. But I think if we just talk about residents as opposed to our business partners, have we taken something out of that? I think we want our business partners to be also why it's a great place to live.
That's actually why the language was the people of Mill Creek,
That's what I
because it was
thinking.
broader.
Yeah,
But if that didn't resonate with people, maybe that people of Mill Creek didn't resonate, but I like the people in Mill Creek, because to me it meant people who might live or
Oh,
work.
you can take that off the screen. We're not working off that anymore. We're working off of, we're back to, yeah. So that's still the people. Final comments, final wordsmithing? Yeah, Councilmember Duque? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
It's okay. So was there any other ones that maybe we, in our excitement to wordsmith, that you think we should be looking at again? Because I really appreciated your comment about that's why it's the people. And I think, you know, there's the easy one of the ampersand, but was there anything of the,
I'm not concerned about any of the other changes that you proposed.
perfect, thank you very much.
I think we're good.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
My pleasure.
Okay, that brings us to our short consent agenda tonight, which is item 11A, approval of checks number 67248 through 67288 and ACH wire transfers in the amount of $123,564.24. The audit committee was council members Allison and Paddock. Were there any exceptions?
No exceptions.
No exceptions.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion approved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? The consent agenda is approved unanimously. City manager reports.
Thank you, Mayor. So the first report is that, just a reminder, this Thursday is our tour of those three cities. So on the dais, you should have a hard copy. That is also was sent to your emails too, just if you haven't seen it yet. So the agenda's there. If you could please try to get there around 9 or just soon after 9 so we can get started right at 9. It's a pretty tight schedule for the entire morning. So Councilmember Duque, yes.
So it says 9:30 though is when we start.
Correct.
And then in your notes, you asked for us to be there at 9.
Or close to, around there, or we're just trying to get everybody there on time. So
You're
that
right,
we
you don't want us to roll in after 9:30. Okay.
That's the intent there. Thank you. The second, and then we're all gonna drive separately, so just make sure that, you know, and there's ample parking in Kenmore and Bothell there, so you can park like outside, but they have garages there, I think, underneath City Hall, so both Kenmore, Bothell, and Woodinville, I don't think they do, so you have to park somewhere outside of the City Hall there, so. Second report is that looking forward to both Representatives Donahue and Berg that will be presenting on the 23rd. So it's be nice to hear a recap on the short session. Final report is I have a copy of the Greet magazine, and just wanted to say that it's nice to see our community champion Barb Heidel in that. Has a one big page in there, and if she hasn't seen it, it's go ahead and take the Greet magazine, but if you read it, it's nothing new. You know, Barb's contributions to the community and city of Mill Creek. So, but it's just nice to see her in that new magazine, which has a pretty good reach. So, then I'll transfer over to Director Todd, who'll give an update on DRCC.
Thank you, Council, Mayor Pro Tem, and staff. This is kind of hot off the press, a real quick update. The microphone, I believe, is on. Is it on? There, get closer, thanks. So thank you for pulling that up for me. So remember a few months ago, before Christmas, we looked at this map and went, oh my gosh, look at this wetland here, particularly, we started calling it Wetland 5, was the new surprise that we didn't know about it. It looked very large.
The black lines where they said it was at the time.
So the green line is what they were, from a quick initial analysis, was the edge of the wetland. The black line is the buffer, either with mitigation or without.
Okay.
So that buffer, the black line is a buffer here.
So we had wetland number 1 was over by the card shop. We had wetland 2 is not surprisingly is down kind of in the deep gully between the church property and the back of Dobson Remillard. 3, I don't know whether it was in number 3, but 4 is kind of the puddle that got created when the road was put in. There's a puddle there and it's turned into wetland. And 5 is the one that was between, remember, this is the old Dobson property and here's the driveway they went through. And the Remillards here and the Dobsons here avoided this low spot that's a bunch of trees. And so when the wetland people went out, the Bruce D's had some folks go out there, they found this wetland potentially. So we said, let's stop, pause, figure out what's going on. Went over here in Cook, we've always known that Cook has North Creek, a whole bunch of wetland and a big buffer there. Yeah. So we said, pause, let's go look at it. So here's the map that we just got a couple of days ago. It's hard to read. I'll show you a bigger one in a minute, but basically had them go back and look at those wetlands. And this is the new stuff that came in from Wetland Resources. So why is this important? You're going to see that we've got categories of wetlands, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 are highly important, irreplaceable. They're rare and irreplaceable. There's 2s and 3s on here. 2s are ones that are ecologically important, provide high levels of function, so you really can't mess with those in general. 3s are provide a moderate level of function, and those are ones that have been disturbed. They're smaller, more isolated. In some cases, you can fill those. And 4 are kind of, they're there, but low level of function. Still provide important functions, but you can do things with those. Don't fully understand. So we've got the map, but we don't have the report yet. The report's going to be coming in a couple of weeks, but this is hot off the press. You want an update, so here we are. I don't understand, and I'll show you here in a minute. I'm not fully understanding why this one here, it says wetland number 4 is the puddle. Can you see it?
Yeah.
The cursor there. That's that puddle. I'm not sure why that is a category 2. But it's been there long enough that it must have turned into a category 2. There
It's an
are some
isolated-
provisions in our critical areas ordinance that says if a wetland was created by somebody putting a road in there, that there are ways you can argue about that. So I'm not an expert, far from an expert, but that is one we might look at. But that is actually a fairly small spot right next to the road. Maybe that's something we could work around.
Director Todd,
Yeah, go ahead.
is there, like, let's say it's now been, we know it's been categorized as a number 2. Is there a way of appealing or well, I know mitigating, but appealing, saying maybe it's a 3 because I think 3 is probably easier to mitigate than a 2.
I think what you end up doing, and Brian can help me because he knows this more, but in general, what we're gonna end up doing is go to the State Department of Ecology and the federal rules and the tribes and say, we would like to fill this wind in, or we'd like to buffer average, or we'd like to mitigate that. And I think in the course of you proposing things, you can provide an argument that says, we don't think this is as important, but Brian, you know more about the
No,
map.
I think you've summarized it accurately. If you go back to the first slide, one thing we didn't touch upon is the 2 lines, the dark line and the dashed line. The dark line is where the code provides a certain buffer, and that reflects, I think, an 80-foot buffer, which is per the code, but the code also authorizes an applicant to provide mitigation and reduce the buffer. So that dashed line is what they refer to as if you do mitigation, that 80-foot buffer can become a 60-foot buffer. So it's pretty clearly shown on this old map. On the newer map, it's referenced, but it's not as clear. So it's hard to, I can't tell from this map if these have gotten smaller from what the consultant last summer assumed, or if they're about the same size.
Look at 5 in particular. Remember, 5 was the one that was giant and bothering us. Look at, that's actually a very small wetland, is that little yellow rectangle there. And then this is a 60-foot buffer, as Brian just said, that's the mitigated buffer. 80-foot is the unmitigated buffer. And a buffer doesn't mean you can't do things there, but it has to be certain kinds of activities. But and I'm not an expert, but category 3, this is one that we could decide we're gonna invest some money to fill it, or to mitigate it, or fill it and mitigate it, or average it. There's lots of things you could do to that as a 3. I will point out that the city manager figured out earlier, there's wetland 5, 5, and 5. These numbers are wrong on this diagram. It's off the press. But this is 1 over on this side. This is 2, and those have not changed much. 4, we just talked about, it's a higher category than we thought it was, but 5 is quite a bit smaller from the earlier picture. So I feel encouraged that there's things we can do about those.
It's better than what we were thinking last summer, but again, until we see the report. So the wetlands consultant goes out with what they call the wetlands delineation manual, and has all sorts of criteria that they have to determine what the classification is the wetland is, and they'll put that in a report. And so we'll get a better idea of some of these wetlands of what the functions and values are, and if we have a good argument for particularly the class 3 or 4s for filling them or mitigating them to reduce the buffers. So we'll have a better idea of what we have to work with after we see the report. Councilmember Steckler?
Yeah, just, I was gonna bring up, I remember we had this discussion way back when we were on the council, Dr. Todd, about the farm and the wetlands over there. And they actually did contact the Department of Ecology, I think you mentioned, and the wetland mitigation was reduced to 5 feet. And in fact, it was such a small amount. I actually called the Department of Ecology myself because I was gonna vote for
It
the
was
farm.
reduced to 5 feet because they bought the 30 or 40 acres next door.
Right,
Exactly.
right. But still, they had the same mitigation though against themselves that, I don't know if it was the reason they bought it, but they went to the Department of Ecology and they said that they could build within 5 feet of that wetland on their side. So,
And there's other options like wetland banking where you might be able to buy wetland mitigation and offsite mitigation that allows
Right.
you to fill on site. So there are options.
I'm encouraged by this and I'm encouraged by what I saw there, that if we do try to mitigate this, that we can
Build it smaller.
build something quite impressive.
Yeah, see, I think that's the challenge being a municipality is wetlands aren't static. So we've owned this property for almost 18
plus
years.
years
Yeah.
now.
So that's the challenge when we don't, why it's imperative to move forward
Yes.
when you can, otherwise things change as they have.
The next slide here, I just want to let you know that, so chapter 1806, environmental critical areas is probably one of the longest, most complicated sections in our code. It's crazy to understand, but I did some bulleted things there. It talks about regulated activities and exempt activities and exceptions, reasonable use, identification, reporting, mitigation, protective measures, wetland mapping, that's what we just did. Rating, we just did that. And you can look at wetland alteration. They have to comply with certain performance standards, but you can alter them. Their buffer widths averaging we just talked about. And the buffer uses, so I've highlighted here, things we could say, passive recreation, including walkways, wildlife viewing areas, educational areas are allowed in that buffer. So like if you go over to the, over at McCullum Park, that whole thing is a wetland, but there's a boardwalk through it. It cost them some more money, but they made a pretty cool educational thing out of that. And you're allowed to do that. You can't have trails just for the sake of trails and walking your dog. But if there's an educational component, there's signs about valuing and honoring the wetland, you can do those kinds of things. And as Brian was just saying, we could do wetland mitigation. There's certain replacement ratios. If you fill this one, you have to create one of a different size. That's what happened at the farm. Reduction here turned into a big thing they had to buy. Or mitigation on site or wetland banks. You can go spend money and say, we're gonna fill this one here, but we're gonna buy somebody else's wetland somewhere else and enhance it at a totally different site. So we have options. That point was there's options. That's what we're paying the consultants to do. But the good news is that, I think the good news is that scary number 5 is a little bit smaller and it's of a low enough category that I think there's things we could do. That was the scary part. And I think we're past that scary part. There's still lots of work to do.
Yeah, and that's the important distinction is the person who went out last year wasn't out there delineating. They were just doing a reconnaissance of the wetlands, saying, look and seeing what they saw, observed. This person that went out is actually doing a delineation, trying to apply the criteria per our code and the delineation manual to determine the classification of the wetlands.
But much more expensive, much more detailed.
Yes.
But they've gone out and planted stakes out there. Now right now, there's people out surveying where that's kind of a hand sketch, but they're surveying that, also surveying the trees that might be significant trees we want to design around or recognize we're going to take them out of there. So that's the work that's going on right now. So that's the reports, unless there's other questions.
Questions?
Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, the next report is marketing communications to report on the wayfinding and maybe an update on kind of our entryway signs as well and state of city.
Evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council and staff. That's a lot. I'm gonna do a quick little icebreaker, break this up a little bit. I learned this from one of my kids recently and it's a genetic thing, but if you sit here and you put your hands together, which way do you do it? The left thumb on top or the right thumb?
Right.
Now mix it up, do it the other way. And that's the most awkward, crazy thing ever, right? Same with crossing your arms. Try it the other way, though. Doesn't really feel right. I don't know. Anyway.
And now for something completely different.
So we talked a lot about getting projects done. I'm happy to present to you tonight with some projects done. When I started here, gosh, it was almost 3 years ago, city manager brought me in because he liked what I had to say about, branding the city again, creating a consistent voice and feel for the city. And that's kind of what this wayfinding project has helped us do. So, living in this city for 17 years and seeing all the different changes, this was just a really great opportunity, I thought, for us to bring back what the city was about and what it looks like and feels like. So on the next slide. Next slide. It's me. I've never used to
You gotta
that.
listen to yourself.
It's all me. Stop. Okay. All right. So here's just kind of a quick overview of kind of what we were tasked with doing, right? So the 40th anniversary branding and decals. We did have a designer do the 40th anniversary. It was not much of a change. It was an add-on to the logo, but we're able to identify where we needed those logos added and had to make it so that we could easily change those at the end of this year. We just worked with a local vendor and did the old fleet. Now we're going to get ready to do the new fleet again, but we did a little changing to the buildings out front here. We bought a bunch of swag for the giveaways, which you guys saw we used last year at events, and we're going to be able to, we've got enough to use at our big events this year. Then, of course, we have the city banner and decoration replacement, and that included the seasonal banners, our city banners, if you guys know those really old ragged white ones around the perimeter, and seasonal decorations. And then we also had the city entrance and wayfinding signage, which was the tertiary kiosks, directional posts, and welcome signs. So here's kind of a project timeline of all the different things that we're doing. And as you can see, what's in red is completed. Everything else is in progress. So this is 2023. So the vehicle decals were done. City Hall South decals are done this year, but the north decals were done last year. The tertiary kiosks were done late last year. We're currently working on the seasonal banners, the city banners, you can see all this, the directional post signs, the directional freestanding signs. Then, of course, you remember end of last year, we decided on the welcome signs. We brought forth several different versions of what that should look like, and you guys agreed on that in late November, I believe. And then we started the end of last year, the welcome signs, the land surveys and RFP. Then when you move into this year, city vehicle decals 2.0, that's going to be taking place here at the end of the month in May. We've finished the City Hall South decals. You probably don't notice, it's very minor details, but and then we're just concluding on the seasonal banners, the city banners, the seasonal decorations. We got a lot of completed projects coming up here. And then down at the bottom for the welcome signs, we've got the land surveys, the manufacturing RFP and the manufacturing, then of course the installation and landscaping. And I urge you to interrupt and ask questions so we don't have to go back, but is there anything on this timeline you have questions about? All right, so you guys remember this. This was the first stab that we had at everything, which was to just update these kiosks around town center and at Freedom Field. We saved a good amount of money by doing the design in-house, and then our vendor was able to get those done pretty darn quickly. Here's the welcome and seasonal banners. This is what's existing right now. So the white ones are on the perimeter of the city, and then the seasonal ones are all around. If you go around right now, you'll see a lot of empty posts. I know in the past, WashDOT had us take down some that were on their poles, and we had 3 different sizes over when they first put these up in 06, a 6 foot, a 7 foot, and 8 foot. And what happens over the years is if the 8 footers get destroyed or lost, if you don't have a replacement 8 footer, it just sits empty. And that's what's kind of happened over the years. So with our new seasonal banners, we've all set on 6 foot banners. That way we're not going to run out soon, and it'll be consistent across the city. This is our draft, almost final draft, what they look like. There's several different versions. There's 2 for each season. again, we're just trying to use our brand, our look and feel. On the right there is the city welcome banner, so it's not going to be white, which they kind of disappear when you're driving around. So this will look really good. And these are getting very darn close to happening, and we hope to have probably the summer ones, which you don't see. We just finalized up in time for summer.
Are we going to have this blue one on the right?
Yeah, that's replacing the white.
All the time.
Yeah, that'll just be up all the time on the perimeter. The seasonal decorations. I remember when I drove through Sammamish last Christmas, I saw these kind of decorations, and it was just really, really cool. And Jody had already been working on the project, but we've worked together with Public Works and done a lot of research to figure out what's going to be able to work. And we ordered with those ARPA funds these 3-foot snowflakes, which we're going to still drafted where they're going to go, but it will definitely go through town center and other locations where the city owns those street lights. So it'll look nice and sustained. So I believe we purchased 110. I believe that's what it is. So here's the directional.
Scott,
Sorry.
Councilmember Duque has a question.
So where the city owns, is there any way to make a partnership for places where we don't own? I'm thinking of the farm.
Yeah, the farm, we don't have any city-owned posts there, so.
But could we connect with them to see if there's an opportunity, or at least show them what we're doing as a city to see if we can keep consistency? It just feels, because it's
Exclusive? Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, I know exactly.
Which is a word people do like for Mill Creek, but in this case, it seems like that would be at least to show. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean,
They can say no, of course, it's theirs, but.
That would be, I mean, that was what we were thinking, up to Twisted Lime, up to QFC, down to Dumas, up to
Mhm.
the North Gateway, as we call it, the Sprouts area or something like that. Yeah, it would be great to have that extend. I guess this is, we're gonna choose this as the pilot right now and see what we can do from there.
The farm has a chance to be first because they're the ones that have power on the poles. Most of the rest of them don't have a place to plug things in yet. So that's gonna be the gating item.
And that's the other thing is these can't be installed right now, not until the retrofit is done to the full LED ballast where they'll add in that power socket. Cool. All right, so directional posts and freestanding signs. So you guys probably noticed the signs all over that kind of point here and there. This was in 2006. Nobody had Waze or Google Maps or anything like that. And what we wanted to do was, again, brand the city, thinking about when you enter the city, you see these big, beautiful welcome signs we'll have here pretty soon. But you'll also see the banners, and then create that consistent look and feel with the kiosks. But there's also these signs that exist everywhere throughout the city on the traffic posts, the freestanding ones that you see, that's just a post there that point to certain places. So when we worked with our vendor, we thought about, we don't want to make anything we don't have to, don't want to do anything like that, but let's try and reuse when possible. So something like this sign that's by Sprouts, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but most of us don't know what the North Gateway is or the East Gateway. We know QFC, Sprouts, and Safeway. So we're just gonna, we're choosing to keep it the same. And these are out there right now. So unfortunately, I wish I would have had pictures, but they just finished installation today and I think the rest of tomorrow. But there are gonna be these blue, as we call them, blade signs. And it's just gonna be, they were gonna replace everywhere these were. So this was our pilot version. This is right by the walk-in clinic on 164th. So that's what you're going to be seeing all around the city now. We did make the decision for, back up here, this one that's right here on the corner by the daycare. That one is going to point to town center. It's going to look just like that one, City Hall, Police, and Town Center. And then there's another one by BECU right there on the corner as well. That's going to point, but again, most people aren't looking for signs these days on where to go or how to find something. So that's going to roll us into when we're starting these surveys about where these bigger signs need to go, the smaller signs, rewrap, reuse, recycle. That's all in the process. Now that we've finished this phase of the development, we can move into this. I'm working with one of our project engineers to get these surveys done and see how we can move things around and really get all these signs updated. So, and you remember this, you guys approve this. This is where we'll rewrap and create those new larger signs. But in the end, this is what we're looking for, that one consistent look and feel across the city when you drive through. So when you leave and you don't see any of the classic blue and green of Mill Creek, you'll know you're not in Mill Creek anymore.
Cool.
I love it.
Questions? Good work.
Just a thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. I'm really excited about this and having the consistency of the look. It just really ties everything together and just makes it look.
That's what we're looking at,
Top-notch.
tie it together.
Yes.
That's the big goal.
Yes, so I'm excited. Thank you so much.
Good job.
All right, so for State of the City, here's our pitch. Join Mayor Holtzclaw and Mayor Pro Tem Vignal on Wednesday, April 24th. That's in just a little more than 2 weeks at noon for the State of the City luncheon at the Forum in Mill Creek Town Center. We've partnered with the Chamber of Commerce to provide a new venue and a new method for delivering this annual report. The event will also be recorded and made available, as we've done in the past, to anyone who is not able to attend, but all are invited, no RSVP required, and it is a free event. It is a one hour lunchtime event, and food will be provided by The Lodge, Blazing Onion, and Brooklyn Brothers Pizza. So we urge you guys to share this with your friends, colleagues, and constituents. Just go to millcreekwater.gov/events and now link to the Facebook event.
Gonna be fun.
Have you, in terms of, have you invited like our representatives?
We are just finalizing this right now. You're like the first to hear.
Oh, good. So we're invited first. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So we'll make a note of it. Public meeting.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, any
All
other
right.
questions? Thanks, Scott.
That ends staff reports, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, just a couple things. So final reminder, since we don't meet next week, that the SCC registration deadline is the end of this week. Is anyone else planning to go besides me? Guess not. So it's the 18th, Thursday, the 18th. It starts at 5, the socializing, the event starts at about 6. I look forward to the regional or PSRC General Assembly. It is May 30th. This is a Thursday. It's not where it was last year. It's down at the Seattle Convention Center. I trust, I don't know, if Adrian, can you take care of registering myself? I don't know, is anyone else planning to go? I know several of you went last. The agenda is not yet available, but it was an interesting event. They had an interesting speaker last year. Just on another note, for my day job, I am now a non-voting member of the Growth Management Policy Board at PSRC. So I will not be representing the city at the PSRC on the Growth Policy Board, but I'll be able to report back to you on what's going on at those meetings. So I'm looking forward to that. And then the final thing I have is I will be out the first 2 meetings in May for a college graduation and a vacation. So with that, that's what I had for my reports. Mayor Pro Tem, were you going to do your legislative report? So do we need an extra 15 minutes?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Literally me reading this.
Go.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. And I apologize. We have this, we wanted to give an update for the legislative report, and I know by the time we get to reports, we're trying to hurry up and get out of here. So I just want to draw your attention back as a reminder that our priorities this year fell under 5 categories. We had funding for operations, city infrastructure and capital projects, public safety, land use and growth management act, public records reform, and transportation. And it was a short session. So I just wanted to give you just a brief update on a few things. As you may recall, the legislative committee met with our representatives this year and also sent staff and council members to Olympia. First, regarding public safety, we had 2 priorities to draw your attention to. We were supporting clarification in regard to vehicular pursuits. This session, the legislature passed Initiative 2113, which does provide the clarification that we were seeking. So we were happy to see that. Second, we were supportive of further funding for the regional training facilities to be expanded. And as you heard from Senator Lovick, they are looking at adding one, hopefully in Arlington and Snohomish County. So that was fruitful. Second, in the area of Land Use Growth Management Act, we had requested clarification amendments regarding House Bill 1110 and Senate Bill 1337. While there were no amendments, there has been guidance issued from Commerce that clarifies these issues. And Mayor Holtzclaw is up to date on these. So if you have any further questions, please reach out to him on those. Finally, we did watch House Bill 2160 in regards to underneath following maintaining our own zoning control for the city. And if you may recall, this bill dealt with density requirements around our bus stops. The committee did work on a letter that Mayor Holtzclaw sent. We did talk to our representatives, and the letter did result in Mayor Holtzclaw having a conversation with the sponsor of the bill. And I believe some of our concerns were addressed, but ultimately that bill did not pass the session. And I do expect that it will be back next year. So we will still need to be on top of that next year. Regarding other categories, it was a short session. There are no additional movements on any of the other bills we were discussing. And I would like to draw attention, as discussed by Senator Lovick, that the city worked with him to get $258,000 in funding for improvements to the Veterans Memorial. And we will continue to monitor next session on what we're looking for and bring things back to you for the legislative agenda for next year, and reach out to us if you have any questions. Thank you. There.
Thank you. Councilmember Cavallari,
No report, Mayor.
Councilmember Stackler.
Just quick, another shout out about, very excited about the $250,000 grant for the Veterans Memorial. The A and B committee put together the design attributes that helped us to come up with that dollar amount. The fact that he was able to get the entire amount was a really great win for us, and we will be able to start on that immediately, although it's probably about a year off before we can complete it. But we will be doing that in conjunction with the library project, so to make sure that we're not missing any opportunities in regards to drainage and issues of that nature. But the other thing I wanted to bring up, I think everyone here did get a copy of the Susan Delbene grant opportunities or email that her assistant put out. If you did, or I got a copy of it, and I thought there were some great opportunities in there, especially maybe with some of the public projects that we want to do, some grant opportunities for everything from DRCC to maybe one of the parks that we're looking at renovating. There's just really some money to be made available there. And so hopefully we're going to be jumping on that immediately from the city standpoint. I just want to make sure that we do, because I saw some really good opportunities that meet with our goals. And that was it.
Councilmember Allison,
No report.
Councilmember Duque.
I attended the Parks and Recreation committee meeting. We have a fantastic group. I'm going to say that every single time I report back because someone is watching. Just kidding. No.
Great.
I am. It is of course refreshing to hear all of their ideas, their perspectives, and so here are a couple of things that city staff shared with them that I wanted to flag for you that you may have heard already. But there was power washing done at the sports park. We were all very excited to hear about that. So thank you to all city staff that worked on that. We had a really good conversation and debrief on extravaganza. I know that there was a little discussion last week, and if you've on social media, you would have seen, but I just really appreciate, I will say Scott, because he's the one city staff member who attends, having that conversation with us and listening, to what we all were very open in discussing what those of us who attended and, the meaning behind it all. And so that was really good. The PNR board is also hard at work on a recreational program survey, which I'm really excited about. They fine-tuned it because I think it's really important. Recreation programs are some people say, what most people know a city for. My child attends the robotics classes that are here in City Hall North on Saturdays, and I have now signed up for pickleball in May. So as someone who uses recreational sports, I think it's really important. And then of course there was an update on the Adopt a Street. And if I didn't say this before, the Parks and Recreation Board has actually signed up as a committee to adopt a street. So anyone who's part of another committee, Stackler, maybe that committee would want to also adopt a street. So thinking through any other groups together, maybe a competition. Okay, thank you. That's all.
Councilmember Paddock.
I heard the gauntlet thrown there, so we'll see. Just a couple of things. So Senator Lovick, he had called out his 30-plus year love and appreciation of the city, the leadership and this council. And I just want to call out that from my perspective, I think tonight we heard some really good things. I think a really thoughtful, creative work around with the ARPA funds, which I think we owe a really huge debt of gratitude to the staff and the leadership for putting that together. It might have been a little contentious, but I think there was also a thoughtful discussion on staffing. And if only due to the care and commitment of continuing the legacy of the city, I think we should really thank the city manager and team for bringing that forward and sticking to it and having a respectful conversation around that. And then I do want to express appreciation for the work that Rob had done. And I think we had a good example, and Rob will get this, of having the right people on the bus to do that work and kind of hedgehogging through it. So I think those are both Colin's call outs that I wanted to make for him. Lastly, City Icon Heidel, I'm hoping there's a scheduled signing ceremony that we'll be all invited to, and congratulations, Barb.
Well said, Scott. With that, it brings us to audience communication. Anyone like to address the council? I'm seeing a nod of heads and I'm not seeing any member of the public online. So with no further business on our agenda this evening, I'll adjourn the meeting at 8:25.